Ladies and gentlemen, Season 1, Episode 2. It didn't save. God damn it, that doesn't happen very often. Like a boy. It's too late now. Whatever. So, opens up with the installation scene, and I'll give them credit. As I mentioned earlier, this is not a good ripperdoc. And the dude has a built-in bite bar on his table where you lay down. So you just bite down in horrific pain as he just slices open your spine to install the hardware. Yeah, very crude, very unpleasant. He's also got swappable arms. Yeah, he 100% Maelstrom. 100%. This guy is just, yeah. So we cut to him going after the bully, and the bully doesn't want to fight in front of the cameras. Ha ha ha. So then he activates the speed gear. Sure. Zips around him. One gigantic punch to the face. Literally still has blood off his back, by the way. I just wanted to point that out. And yeah, I love how the bully's like, "You broke my nose," and he's crying and whimpering and throwing insults even after he just got the crap beat out of him. He's lucky he didn't die here. I'm sorry, not that David's a killer, but that's the point. He's lucky that David isn't a killer, because plenty of people would have just shot him in the face. Yeah, so a couple of nice details of this fight, though. First of all, when he gives the punch, it hurts him like crazy. You got that, right? Like, he's like, ah! Which makes perfect sense. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The reason we always talk about kit when it comes to fiction, not just games, is because it doesn't matter if you have super strength if you don't have super durability, right? If you don't have super durability, then you are turbo screwed the moment you throw a punch because you're just going to shred yourself. Second little detail I liked, the required superpowers, exactly. The second detail I like is that at super speed, the way they show it is pretty much exactly the same as the guy, confirming the connection earlier, but also they don't really emphasize this early on, but the first thing I thought was, what is this costing him? Like, what is the energy requirement for pulling this sucker? We find out that he is a prime candidate to test the product. Interesting. Lure him with promises of financial aid. Well, what about my son? As my heir, it's time he learns what it means to serve the company's best interest. So he just starts, casually robbing corpos along with her. Oh, sorry, she starts casually robbing corpos. Very punk of her. Yeah, corpus gonna corpo. I do, like, I'm kind of zooming through this a little bit because there's not a lot to talk about in some of the details. Lucy, that was her name. Lucy, actually didn't write it down. There's a bit where she comes after him. And we see that she is 100% unwilling, or wrong word, she's 100% willing and unhesitating in using sex as a way to manipulate someone. Yeah, of course he instantly falls for her. She even, starts feeling him up, which, I don't know about you, maybe it's just because I'm a 40-year-old man, but, yeah, no, this is the kind of thing that would be like, okay, hands off, back off. And sure enough, she immediately pins him to the wall. And even despite having him pinned, as they're discussing the possibility of a future job, it's not until they get through the whole thing that you find out she's had a wire on his neck the entire time. Cool. So they go through. It's not a bad combo. She hacks them to make them forcibly eject whatever chip they got. He grabs them with his super speed. Cool. He does this very well, takes to this kind of work very smoothly, likes sticking it to the menu. Notice he likes the fact that they're only going after corpos. And he's like, all right, this is cool. This is awesome. I'm making money. It's cool. Oh, what's this giant thing of blood coming out of my nose? Thunk! He makes a pretty good Edgerunner. He does. But he is hilariously in over his head. To the point where it's actually pathetic. And I keep wanting to say the name of it. They said it once, the Sandefistan or whatever. I don't remember how they pronounced it. The emphasis they put on the vowels screwed with me. So, I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it, so forgive me for continuing. I'll pay attention the next time they say it out loud. But anyways, he passes out. Well, yeah, we'll just call it the Sandy. Yeah, so he ends up in a meat wagon. Ha ha! And the person's like, oh, hang on a second. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take this person. So she decides to save him. So why do you think she saves him? Now, obviously, there's the fact that she's about to sell him out and make some money off of him, but actually, I think there's another thing going on here. Sure, he's fun. Sure, it's plot. But no, I think the real reason she sells him out, or helps him out, excuse me, not sells him out, is because it's fun. I mean, ignoring the fact that she was obviously enjoying the ride, the fact is, she's pretty core punk from what we see. She's someone who desperately enjoys, like she derives enjoyment from that pushing back against depression. And the local authority lady was just trying to kill a guy in order to steal his hardware, in order to sell it for money. So, that's my take. She did it because she's punk. Like, she probably doesn't care about him at all, past the fact that she can get some money off of his hardware. Okay. So, then she's like, alright, now, and he's like, please take me to the dock. And weirdly enough, she does. Yeah, no kidding, Luke. Now, this is a really strange bit. Doc is crude and coarse and greedy, obviously, and more than willing to screw people over. But only to an extent. Did you catch that? He's no Vic. But he does actually help him out. He does take him in, does help him get through this thing. He does sell him the meds, he does clean him up, and he does explain the situation. It's kind of weird how decent Doc is here, relatively speaking. Yeah, he definitely has a bit of a soft spot for David, and he clearly is not exactly a good guy, but yeah, exactly, like there's some standards there. They're a little bit lower than you'd like, but they're definitely there. And that kind of struck me a little bit. Yeah, maybe it's just because he's trying to make sure he has another customer. I don't know. Maybe it's because he thinks he can work with him. Yeah, not the worst doc in Night City. Yeah, you remember that one asshole who we actually have a quest to go after? I don't even remember his name, actually, to be honest with you. But it was a side quest in Cyberpunk 2077. Who was not a good ripperdoc. Oh, was that Fingers? I thought Fingers was the other guy. I might be thinking of two separate people now. Because Fingers is just horrible. Screw Fingers. I remember Fingers because we can like work with Fingers or we can kill him, and we all know what I did on that. But anyways, screw Fingers. Screw Fingers is awful. Yeah, no, Fingers is the Evelyn guy. Okay, so that's a good example, but actually wasn't who I was talking with. I'll have to look it up later. Or anyways, whatever. We get a nice shot of the city, and we see tons and tons of ads everywhere. And there's just... It's the Scavs guys who I was thinking of. But you're right, Fingers is actually a worse example of this kind of a thing. The point I'm trying to reach is that you could go down from Doc. Like, we can descend a little bit here. So... use it 2 times a day, 3 at max, or it'll scramble your day. This is the repeated motif of the first 2 episodes, by the way. Cyberpsychosis. That's especially interesting given the events of 2077, which I will not spoil here. Nevertheless, yeah, I can't think of the guy's name either, Dante Bronson, because yeah, just, and that's the end of that. We killed him too, by the way. Remember we were keeping track how many people we actually killed? Anyways. This is an interesting, start of a cyberpunk adventure. I might actually borrow this premise. You are a level 0 nobody. You have no skills, no level, no attachment. You don't even have a backstory yet, right? However, by total coincidence, you get a hold of some military-grade cyberware, which functionally gives you a superpower. Okay. Now what? And then just kind of, you know, throw things at the player and see how well they roll with it. He is so hilariously in over his head here. Yeah, no, top-level military grade. Yeah, you just got something that you would put in a level ridiculo person. Something they would do an entire adventure just to steal this one piece of cyberware. Yeah, this thing is above and beyond this. I guess that is a common anime premise, now that you say that out loud. But I don't care. there's even this, like, they do some good stuff to establish how he just has no idea what he's doing. He's not into smoking. He can't really do drinking. Like, you've drunk before, right? Yeah, of course I have. Glug, glug. Oh, no. Yeah, here's the keys to an F-22. Huh? Here's a lightsaber and somehow the ability to use it. There's a very, very small character bit for Lucy. Her being invested in the space program. I don't know if they're going to go anywhere with that. I've already kind of commented on that and how it's already been shown in both episodes. More than once, actually. And then she has a program through the Reeds to showcase them being on the moon. Funny thing, I actually went digging for the exact and precise terminology for what these things are called. Because this isn't a brain dance. A brain dance is actually something separate. But this is like one step away from that. Like, I couldn't find the name. I couldn't find the proper name of the damn thing. But they do use their Reeds to go into a virtual space where they can run around and play around in a program. Okay, cool. And what I find so interesting about this is that this entire time, like, the music is uplifting and happy, and he's clearly enjoying himself. And I'm sitting here thinking, okay, so is she about to betray him, or is she about to die? Because that's exactly where this is going, right? And then, sure enough, she betrays him. Okay, cool. I just want to comment, though, because I'm almost sad about the fact that, you know, that she betrays him, because this is actually kind of a cool sequence. It was just the two of them having fun on a moon program, and that was it. And it implies that this is something very personal to her, because she desperately wants to get away. Probably a unrealistic dream. You know the type. You know, I want something that's never going to happen. I want something that isn't possible. I want something that isn't even going to fix the situation, but I want it because it's all I have. Not to tie back into Andor, but it's the light at the end of the tunnel, right? Yeah, a pipe dream. She's got this pipe dream going on. Yeah, Judy is actually a really good comparison to this idea here. Assuming anything she tells us was truthful. I don't know that yet, obviously. Are they really Shadow Machine? I didn't catch that. So, yeah, it makes perfect sense that she's got this pipe dream and she's willing to share it with him and being open with him, and she probably sees a little bit of herself in him, and all of that makes sense, and then she betrays him and all of that's thrown out the window. So I don't know if, like, I've got 3 paragraphs of notes I'm just kind of skipping over because I'm not sure if any of them are actually valid because she betrays him. So how much of this was lies? I don't know. Anyways, he's dead, so I guess we're going to follow our next protagonist next. But first, let's rate this episode. Thoughts? Actually, I did notice that, Loner. I really want input on these episodes, by the way, I should mention, because there's an entire aspect of judging these that I'm just skipping over. And so it's kind of hard for me to be as fair about this as possible. Yeah, actually, David should probably be dead. I'm not actually joking. Dude powered up his metallic arm and then slugged him as hard as he could. His skull should literally be crushed. He should be dead. Only like 50% track, too. Well, admittedly, no, Loner, I'm not. I'm just presuming if he's going to power up the gauntlet, he's probably going to go for a kill blow. Like, wouldn't you? I want my hardware back. Crunch! And that's that. That's what I would do. Actually, I probably wouldn't even wake the guy up. Instead, I'd just pull out my gun. Don't worry, it's non-lethal. Yeah, the whole show is very coffee for me, yes. That's true. Cool is an actual is a concept in addition to a literal gameplay stat in Cyberpunk. So that is valid. I'll give you that. Either way, I'm assuming I'm going to go with yellow on this one. I do feel like, despite several issues that the episode has, it does manage to drag itself up. Especially given the fact that we do have some good setup, we have some good character moments. We see a little bit more about Doc, we see a little bit more about the setting and how it operates. So there's still some good build-up, and I am still going to give credit to that, where credit is due. And now we're playing Mega Man X5. Next episode is going to be Season 1, Episode 3, Smooth Criminal. These are very short, aren't they? I also really don't have a huge amount to talk about in several circumstances. But it makes sense. We're kind of zipping through these. So, because they're short, right? There's not too much meat here. That's not a dig. What do you think about the anime aspect? Do you want my honest opinion? Because I'm not sure you do. Oh yeah, we'll knock this out by tomorrow, 100%. I've actually watched a lot of anime. Of course I have. It's kind of impossible to avoid anime when you run through the circles that I do. I've also gone out of my way to expose myself to a lot of anime to try it out. You know, it's the same reason I've tried a lot of different alcoholic drinks. I have earned the right to say that I'm not into it. Obviously, anime is a huge gradient and blah, 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 blah. But the overwhelming majority of the time, I just tend to not be into it just as a stylistic thing. There are exceptions. Some anime is extremely well animated and just, like, crazy good stuff. This is not one of those. The artwork style is fine. I think that's the simplest way I could put that. It doesn't really jump out at me, but it does a very good job of what it's trying to do. It feels very utilitarian, if that makes any sense. I know that's such a strange way to put it, but it is... thank you, Adam Suda. It's very good at conveying information, but not stylistic enjoyment. I'm explaining this so badly. Like, a lot of the shots and showcasings of the things, of the backgrounds and the visuals, and I just realized I'm thinking almost entirely of the stuff behind the characters, is actually pretty good. It's stuff that I'm like, yeah, and honestly, they probably based at least a little bit off of literal locations that were in 2077, because I can literally recognize a few spots in this. So yeah, some good fidelity in the backgrounds, but with the characters don't live up to that level of quality. There's a contrast between the backdrops and the characters. And apparently, I'm being told now that they literally are doing copy-pasted or drawn-over backdrops, which admittedly I didn't realize or know. I'm just speaking from analysis and speculation. So the characters are fine, but that's about all I've got for the actual character design. So that's not really a negative thing. I've seen worse, but ultimately what I mean by that is that brings just the art style up to a flat neutral. Then we have the animation. Pause. Thank you, Little Pixie Nerd, for the sub very, very much. If you know up to 3 things you want to jot that down for, please let me know. The animation is what I would call actively bad. Yeah, it's I don't even want to comment on the choppy style. Someone actually mentioned earlier. Now we're playing Mega Man X5 again. These are random. There's a lot of techniques that can and are used when it comes to anime to add to the style of animation. Obviously, we're all familiar with some of the more cliched and typical stuff from the 80s and 90s, like the running lines kind of a thing. But what I'm talking about is the kind of stuff that most people don't really notice or even know about, like lead-up frames, or trying to do, what are they called? Like the bridge framing that they do to try and cover up the nature of the frame rate, stuff like that. Because this... It's throwing me. You got it, Little Pixie Nerd. Thank you. Yeah, I feel like I am the wrong person to comment on this, because all I can say is that it doesn't look good to me, and it's hard for me to properly explain why. I've actually seen a fairly large amount of animation in my career, even professionally. I have at this point covered quite a few animated shows, both CGI and traditional 2D. But I just don't have the breadth of knowledge I need to explain what is going wrong here. But the specific animation, the actual movement of the characters, seems off on almost every single screen. I am aware of Studio Trigger. I've never seen any of theirs. Only 2 of their previous works have I ever actually even heard of. I don't know. It could be a stylistic choice. It could be a limitation of budget, which they then turned into a stylistic choice. there's all kinds of possibilities here. And again, I don't know. I can only comment on the fact that the animation doesn't look particularly interesting. So I find myself, and I kind of gave this away earlier on accident, I find myself accidentally looking at the backgrounds more than the characters in almost every shot, because at least with the backgrounds I have something interesting to look at. I know how insulting that sounds, and I don't really mean it as such, but my eyes are just falling right off of the characters, you know what I mean? I just look at him and he's doing his thing, and it's like, yeah, okay. I'll give a specific example. There's a scene where he's sitting in the room and they've got the window panel behind him of the cityscape in the background. And he is like, no, I'm totally hard, I'm cool. And he's like, oh, glug, glug, glug. Then he puts it back down. And the whole time I'm just staring out the window because he's not doing anything particularly well-designed or interesting to me. There's nothing there to catch my eye or attention, and so I'm just skipping right over it. Everything that's being conveyed here is being conveyed by the dialogue and the voice acting, which is actually surprisingly good for dubs like this, but the animation is not carrying anything here. Does that make sense? Now, maybe I'm just a plebeian who doesn't understand anything. That is extremely possible, as I've already admitted 3 times that I am completely out of my element here. I am the outsider over there in the corner. But if I can use a direct parallel... how many of you seen, I think it's called Summer Wars? Let me Google that really quick. It is Summer Wars. So the reason I bring up Summer Wars in particular is, while obviously I didn't like the animation and visuals of Summer Wars, it was really well done. Like, even an outsider like me can look at Summer Wars and say, damn, now I know that's a movie. So it's kind of a different category with regards to budget and time. But I mentioned that because even though that is still very obviously an overtly anime, and it still uses most of the same typical anime tricks, it just looks so much better. Unfortunately, now you're obviously challenging me to come up with an anime show that I think looks very good. So anyways, let's get to the next episode, which is Season 1, Episode 3, Smooth Criminal.